Greetings, everybody. This is Dr. Ray Lindley. I'm the Executive Director of Array Global Educational Services. I have to tell you, I'm very excited because I'm looking through the attendees at this workshop today, and there are so many names I recognize and people I recognize, and I'm so anxious to see you all again and continue to work with you. We're pleased to, after a summer's break, we're pleased to begin presenting our workshops that we hope are very helpful to you in your professions. And we have an exciting schedule planned for this fall. And before we get into that, I want to introduce Mr. Danny Eichelberger. Danny has just been selected as another associate director for Array Global, and he'll be working with Dr. Jake, Dr. Mahgoub, and myself to really run the business of Array Global. We're excited to have Danny with us. And Danny, just give us a few words of greeting.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot, Ray. Appreciate the opportunity to meet everyone, and have many of you I've met before in our travels and some trainings. And this is exciting work, and I'm so glad to be a part of Array with the continued efforts, just the opportunity to see the training going on and everyone keeping sharp with these initiatives and talking to each other and helping each other through these pandemics and crazy times. I've considered it an extended family, and I'm very happy to join everybody.
Great, Danny, and thank you. It's really a pleasure for us to be working with you. And if you haven't met Danny and you have a chance to meet him, I'm sure you'll agree he's a wonderful addition to our team. And so, again, welcome to everybody. We're glad to have you back. And Dr. Jake will be talking about it in a minute, but we have 3 actually preschool workshops planned for September: today, next Saturday, and the next Saturday. So Dr. Jake, give us a rundown on what we're going to be doing.
Yes, Dr. Ray meant August. In August, we have 3 different workshops going on. Our Back to School series, we're excited to be able to provide this free service to schools throughout the world. And it's exciting to see so many people here, so many people we recognize, and some new people too. So today we're going to be talking about instructional practices, and we're excited to have Jessica and Gemma with us today. Next week, we are going to be delighted to hear from our very own Dr. Ray Lindley. He's going to be presenting about curriculum and how we can create curriculum that is effective and keeps students engaged. And then our third presentation, that's going to be on August 28th. These are all at 9 p.m. Saudi Arabia time. We're going to have a forum, and we have me, Dr. Ray, and Dr. Salam Noor, who will be answering questions and helping you and guiding you as you get started for this school year. Some of your schools have already started, and we're excited to be able to provide that opportunity for you. Some other things as we get into this workshop today, I see a lot of you are already in the chat introducing yourselves. So again, welcome to this workshop. It's great to see so many people here from various places. We also like to especially welcome anyone from the Ministries of Education. We have many ministers attending and that always monitor what's going on and providing this support further on to their schools that they work with. We'd also are very excited to announce that Dr. Ray has the opportunity to travel to Saudi Arabia. This used to be a pretty common thing for us to be able to travel, but with COVID, it's gotten a little bit more difficult. But Dr. Ray is going to be able to travel in September. And in the chat and on our social media, I'm going to post the dates that he's going to be there. He's going to be in Saudi Arabia September 17th to the 23rd. And there's going to be a survey we're going to post in the chat that you can fill out if you'd like to visit with Dr. Ray. He's going to be visiting with owners and directors, people from all over that area, and talk to you about the services that we provide, how we can support you, and then just talking to you and interacting with you, because that's what we like best, and that's what we do as an organization, is really focus on those relationships. As you have questions throughout this workshop, please make sure that you post it in the chat. There's times that Dr. Ray and I and Mr. Danny will interrupt and ask the presenters, and they're more than willing to answer some of those questions. Also, at the end of this workshop, there's going to be a survey that we're going to put out to take attendance. You're going to put your name, your school, your contact information in there, and then a certificate will be sent to you later on this week. We try to usually get it out by Wednesday, but it's a simple survey just to make sure that we know that you were in attendance, and then we have your name correctly written so we can get it right on the certificate. So with that, Dr. Ray, I'm going to post the survey in the chat so they can sign up to have you come and visit with them as we figure out your schedule, your busy schedule during that time. But with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, and I should just mention that unless there is a lot of interest, I will only be in the Riyadh area. If there is enough interest in other places in Saudi Arabia, I can perhaps take a day trip. Of course, we're very interested in talking with you about if you would like to have your school accredited by Array Global, and we can work with you on doing that. So, and one other quick thing for the forum that we're going to have in 2 weeks with Dr. Jake, Dr. Salam, and myself, it will help us a lot if either you would contact us or perhaps write in chat here if there are specific questions you would like to have us address. Maybe something that is an issue for you that you would like us to talk about, or a question regarding something that has been said, and we will certainly try to tailor that forum. It is open forum. You won't see a lot of opening statements from us, but it's an open forum for you to talk with us about things that are of interest to you. I'm so excited today to present the two ladies who have probably been the most influential for us in Array Global. I can honestly say that with all of my years of education, these are two of the finest educators you will ever meet. And I don't just say that because they're here. I'm saying that because they are outstanding educators. They have an organization called Epicenter, which is based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's really a great opportunity, and they're going to be talking today about some of the services they offer and how they specifically help schools. Where I guess if we put a title to it, it would be something like this: Teaching Fundamentals, highlighting the core skills that teachers need to motivate students. And so Jessica and Gemma, if you're looking at the same screen I am, that's Jessica on the left with the darker hair, and that's Gemma on the right with the blonde hair. But if you call them either name, I think you're okay. So Jessica and Gemma, welcome. The show is yours.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Dr. Ray. It's also a pleasure to work with all of you as well. We've grown as educators in the past several years, getting to credit schools alongside these fine gentlemen. And we're really excited to continue to look for ways to help schools grow and to help them prepare for accreditations, and really to help them really refine their skills so that we can do great things for children. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on our presentation really quick. Share my screen. All right. Thumbs up if you can see our presentation. Very good. Teaching fundamentals. So we're going to jump right in. We are one of the workshops, but let's get your thoughts first. If you could just write into the chat, what will teachers and students need this upcoming year the most? We run schools as well. I'm a principal at a kindergarten through 12th grade school with about 2,200 students. And our teachers and students are already back in our buildings. And when we started our school year, we looked at our teachers and asked this very question: what are our students going to need the most? They are coming out of 18 months. Some of them have not been in school. Some of them returning to school for the first time. Some of your schools still cannot return to school in person. So what do they need? Let's hear let's see your thoughts in the chat. I see mental health, laugh and learn, reconnect, socializing, motivation, physical activity, reconnecting, lots about reconnecting, learning through fun. Yes, 21st century skills, fun. See lots of that. Understanding, that's a great one. Self-esteem, motivation, physically active, of course. keep those ideas coming. These are all essential to what our students have either been missing, lacking, and especially those mental health components. We're going to jump into some of the very things that you've talked about. We have done introductions, so that is included in our slide, which we will make sure we send out the viewing of these slides after the fact as well. We are resilient. This is what our students and teachers and parents are going to need a lot of in the next year, resilience. And I think that many of them have already proven resilient over the course of the past year as we made them pivot their style of education. So this is our mantra for the year. We are resilient. Really hoping that people kind of grab onto that mantra, pull together to get us through this pandemic. Let's jump into some fundamental skills. What is the most important fundamental skill a teacher will need this year to be effective? Put that in the chat. What is the most fundamental skill a teacher will need in order to be effective this year?
1 to 2 words.
1 to 2 words, yes. Patience, flexible, writing skills, that's a good one. We agree wholeheartedly with that. Online teaching skills, patience, yes, positivity. So much patience going into there. Tech savvy, creative, yes, patience, meditation, awareness, I love that. Friendly, openness. So many of these words go back to the core of who we are, character traits, patience, flexibility, understanding, empathy, such a great word. Such a great word. Yes, these are absolutely the core of what teachers need. We're going to jump into 5 fundamental skills. Now, each of these components, we go into great detail in our fundamental series. So again, we'll make sure you have all the resources of how to find Epicenter Education. We do online workshops, we do in-person workshops, and we are currently creating all of our online asynchronous learning opportunities as well, where you can go on and walk yourselves through a lot of these fundamental programs. So a lot of what you're going to see today is directly from our fundamental set. So let's dive in. This is our educational fundamental series. So we have the fundamentals of student assessment, classroom environment. Oh, I went a little too far, let me go back. Classroom management and effective lesson planning. And so we have a series, it's a 4-part series. Not only do we do full-blown workshops with each of these components, but again, we have online courses for these components too. So we're very excited about this fundamental series because again, what you see today is only scratching the surface of some of these fundamental skills that teachers are going to need. But here we are at the beginning of the school year. So we really want to refocus you on some of these fundamental skills. All right.
The first core fundamental skill is for teachers to truly be able to assess, to know their students and their needs, not just what they can do and what they know, but who the students are and where they're coming from. As teachers assess what students know, they will be determining what students already know how to do and the skills that they already possess. What they know already is so very important because without it, then how does a teacher know where to start? The curriculum, the first lesson in the curriculum may not be appropriate for that group of students. So assessing your students and knowing exactly where we need to start with them is what teachers fundamentally need to know how to do. An analogy might be if you're about to set out to lose weight, you have to take your measurements and know what your weight is to begin with to know how much progress you have made. One way to assess what students know is by giving a grade diagnostic. So we work with a system that uses iReady, and our partners at EduEnhance also work with and provide iReady in the Middle East. And iReady is a wonderful tool. Students come in, take the diagnostic for reading and math, and it produces the most beautiful charts and graphs that tell you precisely and exactly what students know and their learning gaps as well. So there's a couple of different types of assessments that teachers need to be comfortable with. The formal, like the diagnostic, may be a multiple choice, may be online, but this is not to say that that is the only way to assess what students know. On a day-to-day basis, teachers must know how to assess informally, how to have regular check-ins with students, even if it's just checking for understanding by a gesture. You know, do you not understand? Give me a 1. Do you understand a little? Give me a 2. Or do you really feel comfortable with this material? So assessment happens at all angles.
Also with assessment, this is so important because right now, a lot of the schools that we work with, they're high performing. They're used to growing students 1.2 years in a year. So they're so used to seeing more than a year of growth in just 1 year. Because of the COVID slide, which is what we're calling it, we've seen a lot of learning loss or learning gaps as a result of students trying to learn on their own or learn asynchronously or synchronously from home. And therefore, a lot of these schools have now shown that last year, they were able to grow their students 8 to 9 months within that year, when they typically would have grown them 1.2 years within a year. So we definitely need to know right out of the gate, where are our students? Where do we see the greatest learning loss? And these are high performing schools that have shown that type of slide. So for struggling schools, the gap is going to potentially be much greater. So again, you can't really do anything until you know exactly where our students are. Now, also with their social emotional needs, you have, again, many of our students haven't been to school for almost 18 months, and some of them still cannot come to school. This creates a huge need to understand where they're at socially and emotionally, which many of you put into the chat. So thank you for that insight. At some of the schools that we work with, they've even hired social workers or people who work directly and only on these social and emotional needs of our students. They've doubled down on those resources because we haven't had the ability to truly assess where the students are and what they're feeling throughout the last year and a half. So a little bit about assessments. How are they doing? We came up with the 4 A's. And this is a resource that we're happy to provide. It's here in the show as well. The 4 A's that teachers should keep in mind to really check in with their students. So again, diagnostic testing and how did they grow last year academically is so important, but also where is their wellness? So you have to have a balance this year, especially if so many of our students are returning live. So don't forget this part of your diagnostic within those first couple weeks as well. First of all, acknowledging that there's been changes. You as the adult in the room, acknowledging to both your staff, if you're an administrator, or your students as a teacher, that there have been changes. Know yourself, exhibit vulnerability, acknowledge that human element. Next, be able to articulate those changes with your students, with your parents, your teachers, have them help them to articulate those changes. Whether you're giving them feeling cards, journal topics, staff surveys, get it out of them, like give them a voice in that. Next, you're going to want to assist them with those changes, maybe by having empathy activities, modeling patience. All of you brought up patience in that chat, and there it is as well on number 3. Have various games, model work, plan service-oriented activities. So again, you're acknowledging, then you're helping them articulate it, then you're going to start assisting with it. through all of these different activities that you can do with them. And then finally, continue to assess and reassess how they are and where they're at in that, so that you're both addressing their academic needs and their social emotional needs through these assessments. Now, again, we're only scratching the surface of our fundamental series, but there is an entire series on student assessments. It breaks down how to do diagnostic testing, how to do formative testing and examples of that, as well as some high quality, high yielding results with summative assessments. So if you do need more information on student assessments, again, we have an entire coursework on that.
Once you know, and once teachers know where students are at, then it's time to plan to meet their needs, plan to grow students. So in the plan, what happens first? If teachers are good practitioners, if they are good planners, they're starting with the standard. And they are looking at what exactly is the goal, and they have a clear idea what needs to be mastered, what students need to be able to know, as well as what students need to be able to do. Once that is established, then they will plan the journey, plan experiences in order to get them there. When it comes to planning, students are key. They are the starting point of the journey. And we use our curriculum to get them to achieve the goal or master the standard. However, the curriculum is not the teacher. The curriculum is a tool. And the first lesson, as I said, in the curriculum may not be and may not meet students where they are at. Has a lot of knowledge. You might know teachers who are very knowledgeable about their content, but don't quite know how to connect it to the students. And this is where planning comes in to effective teaching. It is the teacher. The teacher is the magic, the connector of the knowledge to the students. As we all know, students don't conveniently, we wish they did, but they don't conveniently all start at the same place. This is a challenge. Differentiation is a challenge, but effective educators know how to plan for all of their students. Some of their students just need a straight shot to the target and will be able to know and do the things that are required. Other students will need a little bit of a different path, either more practice, more enrichment, more opportunities, or you may have students who already know some of the things that will be required at the end. We don't want to waste their time as well. We don't want to keep reteaching to students who have already mastered the goal. So there's planning for students who have more needs, and planning also for students who might be accelerated. One of our courses in the Fundamentals series is effective lesson planning. Planning is definitely essential. We would like to show you just a little clip and give you a little taste of what you might see in one of our Epicenter courses. This comes from our lesson planning course.
Considering the progression of learning helps us ensure that we are meeting students where they are at and giving them what they need in order to grow and succeed.
We always insert some formative assessments ourselves as educators, as you can see.
Let's take it one step further. Let's say our standard is to walk to the store. What exactly would students need to know? They would need to know what a store is, where the store is, and how to get there. These knowledge targets would need to be explicitly taught. What would students need to be able to do? They would need to be able to roll over first, hold their heads up, prop themselves up, crawl, walk with some assistance, find their balance, take a few steps on their own, and then they would be ready to walk several steps. These performance tasks would need to also be explicitly taught. This list of broken down tasks is called the learning progression. Planning with this learning progression in mind is called scaffolding.
That gives you a little taste of what we're about and our online courses. So thank you for that.
Consider
So we've given you two fundamental skills, assessing and planning. The third fundamental skill that teachers need to be able to show is the ability to engage students. It's not enough just to plan. In fact, you can have wonderful lesson plans, a wonderful path or journey, but without engaging students and making sure that they are on the path with you is not effective. So number 3, provide engaging and effective instruction. Along with choice and best practices, teachers should be aware of teachers talk versus student talk. It is reported that 60 to 80% of the talk that happens in classrooms is the teacher talking. We need to change this. He who talks learns. The greatest way to engage is to provide students with what we call opportunities to respond. Opportunities to respond are simply if you are taking students on a journey through a lesson to the destination of mastering the standard, you are constantly looking to make sure that they are with you right there, and if they are understanding. There are 3 main ways of giving students the opportunity to respond. Some involve gestures, checking in with a quick gesture. Who is with me? Thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down. Or it may be a quick turn and talk to your partner. So everyone in the classroom gets a chance to talk and not just the one child being called upon. A child might sit all day and not be called upon. So in this way, all children are able to talk. Verbal, an example of verbal opportunities to respond, that may include choral answers by the whole class as well, and quick writes. Another example of, say, a physical way is just to have students have cards or whiteboards so that they all write down the answers, not just one student being called on, because the minute that one student is called on, wouldn't you agree that when you're at a training, if you're not the one being called on, you check out just a little bit until that's all done with and the answer is given? Absolutely. Students do the exact same thing once they hear somebody else's name. But if they are responsible for holding up what it is that they think the answer is, they are continually engaged. Here is the tale of 2 teachers. You have teacher number 1 and teacher number 2. Both are amazing individuals with lots of teaching skills. They are truly dedicated and committed to their students in each of their classroom, and they have a love for students and know their subject matter. Here's the one difference between the 2 that is going to make the biggest difference. Teacher number 1 has a habit of only calling on one student. Students love him. However, by the end of the year, if you tally all of the times he has given students an opportunity to respond, it may look like the number there, 18,000 possible opportunities. Teacher number 2 has a different approach. Teacher number 2 uses gestures, uses physical response, uses quick writes, has students continually turn and talk, and very rarely only calls on one student. This teacher gives students an opportunity during the school year for 90,000 responses. What are the results? Research shows that opportunities to respond definitely affect achievement and growth. Teacher number 1, as hard as he works, is only going to get so much growth, and teacher number 2, allowing students to talk, is going to get a much higher result. Epicenter goes into classrooms, and we observe. This is a copy of one of the checklists that we might provide a school or have as we go into classrooms and take a look at what those opportunities are. Are there, teachable moments that are being missed? We try to quantify it and have something very tangible so that teachers themselves can grow if they feel like they're not giving enough opportunities.
This is one of the #1 services that are requested of us. When you come into our schools, they ask, don't just tell us like, oh, you're doing great, like actually dive in. And that's exactly what we do at Epicenter. We go into classrooms, we talk directly with teachers, we talk directly with students, and we try to give as much feedback as possible on where we see that there are missed opportunities for student engagement, because the more your students are engaged, the higher success rates you're going to have at your schools. So these are definitely some of our focuses when we're asked to come and do school visits and look at where the school can continue to refine their practices.
Thank you for all of your comments, such great comments. Please keep them coming. So we have teachers needing to know how to assess, know how to plan, and know how to engage. And our fundamental number 4 is that teachers need to be able to create an environment that is conducive to learning. The physical environment, the culture of the environment, and the relationships within that environment.
This is one of my favorites, courses of our fundamental series, because I just really love when I walk into a classroom and it feels good in that classroom. And that starts with not only the way you're setting up your classroom, but the way you're setting up expectations for the classroom. It feels student-centered. And so this is a series that we were so excited to build, or part of a course that we were so excited to build. We'll show you a few of the things that we teach within this, but really as you start your school year, think about when a child walks into their classroom for the first time ever. And when many of these students walk it back into school for the first time in over a year, what are they going to feel? What are their senses going to take in? This is so important. This is just as important as what lesson you're going to teach that day. How does a student feel the minute they walk in your door? It starts.
Can I add something to that? Can I add something to that? What you're saying is just so key, the feeling that you get. We've all talked about this from time to time. And usually those of us who've been around a while, we can walk into a school and within 10 minutes tell you a lot about that school because of the feeling.
Yes.
And sometimes we forget that. It's got to feel good.
Gotta feel good. I just love this part when I'm walking around as an administrator, when I'm walking around as a consultant, I'm soaking in how it feels because I just love that part. And so at Epicenter, we built again an entire course around classroom environment, and we give all the tools, like how are you setting up your desk? Are your desks bolted into the ground, or do we have flexibility for our students to sit in rows when it's appropriate, but also have rich dialogue, have an opportunity to talk to other students, have debates within your classroom. We walk you through about 15 different classroom setups within our class. These are some of the examples of how we built our models for our Epicenter classrooms on the screen. Also, we give you examples of different types of furniture which are conducive for various groupings. And, you know, a lot of your schools that we're working with and right now, even in Saudi, are brand new, or they're building, or they're maybe even redesigning. Think about for the groupings and all of these things. Like, we can take this into the next level, because a lot of workplaces these children are going to be entering into no longer have walls. They're tearing down walls. Workplaces, they're expecting people to work in groups. Technology companies put pods together of people so that the creative thoughts continue to flow and bounce off one another. So our schools really need to reflect the workplace so many of these students are going to be entering. At Epicenter, this is some of the resources we give you. We take you through different classroom setups. What are the collaboration levels? What are the pros and the cons of all of these different classroom setups? When I was teaching, I never kept my classroom the same. It wasn't like I kept the desks the same the whole year. I didn't even keep them the same the whole month. I changed up the classroom seating based on the lesson that we were doing. So if we were going to have a rich debate, we were in debate mode. If we were going to have partners, we were in partner mode. If I was allowing them to do group activities, we would have flexible seating options for them. I was not afraid to literally move desks every single day if that's what it took to keep my students engaged and help them feel what that lesson was all about. And classroom, seating is so important. So as you're setting up your rooms for the year, please keep these things in mind. You don't have to stay stagnant. This is one of the most fun ways to mix up what you're doing for your students. Furthermore, a good lesson will be automatically felt within the classroom. I can walk into any classroom and know exactly what those students should be learning for the day. More importantly, the students walk into their classroom and know exactly what they should be learning for the day. And this is also something that at Epicenter, we often consult with schools on. How do we change our environment to know not only that it feels good, the lesson, we can tell what type of lesson it's going to be based on that classroom environment, but what are the key visual elements within the classroom to make sure that students know exactly what their day is going to involve. And so these are some of the tools that we teach throughout these courses, but we wanted to preview with you today because these are the things you should be considering right now as you're gearing up for your school year.
There's a question, Jessica, about, you were getting a wonderful comments about classroom seating, but there's a question about what about during Corona? And I think you have some ideas on that too, on seating.
We do, and a lot of this is going to be based on your local authorities and what's allowable. So for instance, in a lot of the schools we're working with, it's that students within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes are going to have to quarantine. There was a rule a while ago that the whole class had to quarantine if there was a positive case. So it really depends on your school. So for instance, last year, our schools, we kept them in straight rows. Everybody had to face forward. They had to be spread out really far. Now we're allowing for some limited grouping, but we're asking them to keep their grouping consistent as much as possible with seating charts. That way, if one student gets it, only their group would have to quarantine. So again, a lot of your rules and restrictions are going to guide how you can have students sit within a classroom. Nevertheless, as those rules and restrictions start to release, as we get more herd immunity, as we get more vaccinated people, these are still things that are super important because that may lift as the year continues on. And the minute you can get your students in a more engaging environment, even if you have to start in straight rows, so be it. The minute you can get them into a more engaging environment, you're going to start minimizing that learning loss quicker than the schools who don't take action sooner.
And Jessica, just some comments that were also posted in the chat is some teachers are having to do distance-based, and I think your point is to be creative, to get students engaged, get them involved, get them talking. Some people said have them write in the chat, have them communicate in discussion groups in Zoom, break them out in small groups. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, and you probably have some additional ideas on that too.
We do. We actually had an entire workshop on this. I'm sure you can find it in some of the previous feed with Array Global or Epicenter Education on 21st century learning. I know we'll continue to push that as we're working through the pandemic alongside Array. But I will tell you, the teacher has a lot of ability to do this as well. I have multiple teachers that we work with who set up zones within their classroom. So many teachers right now are teaching with the same backdrop day in and day out. We've seen some of our more creative teachers who set up a zone for reading. And then all they have to do is turn their computer a little bit, and now they're in their math zone within the classroom. They turn their computer a little bit, their science backdrop within the classroom. There's a lot you can do with virtual backdrops, but not just that, you can change up the student's environment just by turning your computer and having areas of your physical classroom set up that helps them feel like it's time for ELA or English language arts or the reading, or it's time for mathematics, or it's time for science, time for social studies. So you can still do a lot with your classroom environment, whether or not students are in that. Having the students stand at times on screen, having them sit, having them, do different movements with you. It all goes to their environment. What are they taking in on your computer screen? And what are you asking them to do within their environment? You can put them in breakout rooms. There's so much you can still do in the virtual world, which is like a whole nother workshop as well, which we'll continue to promote throughout the next year.
All right, this is a section that Dr. Ray will love, I think. So in creating that environment, not just a physical environment, but creating that culture in your classroom. And that relates directly to the feeling that other people get of the connectivity between the human beings in that room. And so this could be, any part of this could look very different in each classroom, depending on teacher personality. The teacher might greet students at the door. You've seen teachers who have a little dance with students as they come in, or fist bump, or they have secret signs that they show each other. This is, the praise that happens in the classroom. Respect and trust. Creating that will allow for students to thrive, because then they will be comfortable in risk-taking. And learning is all about risk-taking. So creating that classroom culture, very, very important. They say that when you say something positive and you say something negative, the ratio is, if you have a negative interaction with a student, it takes 3 positive comments or interactions just to get back up to the tipping point, right? So the 1 negative interaction, puts you into the negative. 3 interactions puts you now at neutral. So really, it's only at 4 positive comments or interactions to the 1 negative that will start to tip you toward the positive. So that's what we like to see, is just a good energy in the classroom. And of course, with that energy, taking the time to get to know each one of your students. As a secondary teacher, this is hard. I had to take anecdotal notes because I had 165 students. So I would take little Post-it notes and just, put a little something about each student that was just personal to them that I could refer back to and remember. Administrators, your teachers are your teachers, but your teachers are also people. They are people who have lives, who are going through difficult times, who have things that, they are struggling with. Teachers, your students are your students, but they are also people, and they have things going on in their life that they want you to know about. Making time for this is difficult, for sure. We have a lot of stuff to get through. We have a lot of curriculum to make up for, but taking that time is so very, very important, because the curriculum won't necessarily matter as much if those relationships aren't built.
I was in the copy room the other day, and I talked to a teacher as he walked in. I was just like, how did your first day of school go? And he said, With 8th grade, I was able to get through my syllabus for the day or my lesson for the day. And with 6th grade, I didn't even get close. Those students just needed to talk to each other. And he allowed for that because so many of these students, it's their first day in middle school or like our secondary schools ever. It's their first day mixing classes, and these students haven't seen each other for over a year. And so he gave that time and space for them to talk to one another, for him to talk to them, because he recognized that as a need. And as administrators, we're allowing that freedom to our administrators this first week or two to build those relationships, because that 20, 30 minutes of time where you were able to get to know them on a human level can be payday for months and months and months to come, because now they feel like you know them as a person.
Oh, participants, you are saying some of the most wonderful things about relationships. Thank you so much. I want to go back and read all of these. Absolutely, a smile is best. So Epicenter does have a course for classroom environment as well. We just touched on a few of the things that we've created for that course. The last and 5th fundamental skill for teachers is learning how to manage. You can have the best laid plans, you can have assessed, you can teach and engage, but if the classroom is a zoo or is a disaster zone, then learning isn't happening as it should. So managing a classroom and students is very, very important. And this includes setting rules, expectations, and having procedures. There is a myth that if students are old enough, they'll just know what to do. And another myth that they'll be able to figure it out, or that a teacher should only have to say something once. Actually, that isn't true. And students need to be explicitly taught how to behave and what to do. As you see here on the screen, here's a picture of how just to be a good listener, what to do with your hand, how you should be facing, where your legs or feet should be, what you should be looking at, and what you should be saying. This is explicit instruction, which is exactly what we need for students. As far as classroom rules, of course, we need our students to buy in, creating them together or creating them and making sure that students feel that these rules are also from them, that they want these rules in place, that they will thrive with these rules in place. So it's always recommended to have 5 or 6 rules or less so that students can remember them and own them as, part of their classroom culture and how things function. As we talk about misbehaviors and what to do when managing, circulating is best. Some teachers like to stay in their teacher box at the front by the board because it's convenient with all the teacher things up front, but circulating is very important because there is power in proximity. Scanning and observing the room, interacting positively, as we have mentioned before. And finally, if needed, correcting consistently, making sure that consequences are indeed in place and that they are used. When a consequence or when a correction needs to happen, it should be very brief and it should be administered in a very calm way. Students must know that this is love, not punishment, that we are simply trying to get back to the learning and none of the corrections are personal.
I want to address some of the comments that I see coming in about high school. How can what do we do for high school? What about high school? I have to tell you, I'm principal of a kindergarten through 12th grade school, so KG through grade 12. I have to tell you that some of my best secondary teachers taught in elementary school first, because I think we get it in our minds that once we're in high school, we need to now sit in straight rows and we need to now just be like paper pencil, and it just needs to be kind of quiet and do your work and compliant. And compliant is not always the same as engagement. And so some of my best teachers with the highest results do the exact same things as elementary teachers. Some of my favorite practices are to have secondary teachers go and observe fourth, third grade teachers, etc. Because putting them in groups, allowing them to have dialogue, allowing them to, turn and talk to their partner, turn and share with their table, still putting them on tables, not necessarily in straight rows. All of these are best practices, no matter what age group. Think about workshops you've been to as an adult. When you just go in, you sit, you face your presenter, you're all in straight rows, you listen to a presentation, that's one thing. But when you go in, you're at tables, you've got your resources, you all have materials, you've got sticky notes, you get to go up to the wall and stick things on poster charts, you get to talk to one another. This is engaging even for adults. So why would we skip this for our high school students? Please think of it the same, because yes, we may not have all the little cutesy this and that, but the best practices are the same. And those are the teachers that get the best results. Those are the teachers that the students get excited to go to class for, because they know they're not just going to have to go in, sit in straight rows and be just talked at the whole time. They're going to have the ability to actually engage with their curriculum. It is the same best practices.
I so agree with you, Jessica. I was high school principal, and I agree. Some of my very best teachers had experience in elementary school.
Yes.
This is yet another one of our courses, the Fundamentals of Classroom Management. Again, we just skimmed the surface to give to you today, but that is a product that Epicenter does provide.
The great thing about this workshop and the course, which will be launched online in the coming months, is that it really does walk you through exactly how to set up the rules for your classroom, how to engage with your students so that they have a voice in that, how to get buy-in with our students at every level, also how to work transitions into your class. One of the key elements to successful classrooms as well is transitioning them from one activity to the next and making sure they know exactly how to behave during those transitions, all the expectations during the various types of lessons that they will go throughout the day or throughout the weeks.
I love, there are many suggestions and many ways, many acronyms for classroom management for sure that we can, that we can go through, but these are just the basics. I see Afshan says pose, pause, pounce, and bounce. It really works. I've never heard of that, Afshan, but we are definitely going to look that up. So thank you, Claire.
Yes. So just to kind of recap a few of the things. So today we talked about, making sure we first assess where our students are at, having effective lessons, how to engage them in those lessons. Don't go through all that time to plan a good lesson. If you're not sure how to engage your students, that's gonna be difficult. Making sure we're addressing their social emotional needs, setting up our classroom for success, and then helping to manage your students. These are the fundamentals of teaching. These are the fundamentals of what you really need to refocus on as you set norms for this entire year. Set their environment up for success, make sure you know where they're at, and then plan according to where they're at, not just academically, but also socially. So Epicenter, that is our mission. We're going to continue to provide engaging professional development. We have multiple elements from certified instructors to programs and courses. Again, today we talked a lot from our educational fundamentals course because we're right here approaching the beginning of a new school year, but we dive deep into instructional strategies which help you engage students or help you to strengthen your lesson planning, student engagement, and then we have a multitude of other services that we provide as well. We also have a teaching competency certification as well as administrative leadership. We're very excited because we're also going to Saudi Arabia in the coming month. to work directly with several schools on where they're at, how they can continue to refine their practices, and provide some of these trainings over the course of the next year to those teachers and administrators. So this is exactly what we love to do. And we're so excited that schools are finding value in that, and we can continue to help schools with that. We have a multitude of other programs which you're welcome to check out on our website. This is a little bit about us. That commercial is also on our website. And we are so obviously proud to partner directly with Array Global Services, mostly because we really believe in the standards that they're holding schools to, but more importantly, they are working around the clock to ensure that students or schools know how to meet those standards. And that's the key to, I think, successful accreditation processes is we're not just going to come in and tell you, what standards you need to strengthen. They're going to give you all the resources on how to strengthen them. And we're so proud to be one of those resources. Ray?
Thank you so much.
You're here.
Jessica and Gemma, I can only tell you, and if you've had a chance while you were presenting, I've been following the comments. My goodness, the impressive presentation that you have made has been so well received, and it should invigorate us all as we begin a new year after a really difficult year to really say, here's what our focus is. I want to just make a couple of comments. Number one, we are working now with a country where we have not had any association before, and the ministry is asking us, why Array Global? Why, what's so special about you? And I only say that the kind of presentation which you have had today is why we formed Array Global. We want to give service to schools, and we have several of you who are in the process of accrediting with us, and we encourage any of you who would like to work with us on a more regular basis, please contact us and let us know, especially if any of you are in the Riyadh area and you would like to talk with me about accrediting with Array Global, or transferring your accreditation or adding accreditation of Array Global. We will be happy to work with you. And before I conclude, Dr. Jake, Mr. Danny, do you have anything to add to today?
Just to wrap up, I am going to post the post-workshop survey in the chat as soon as Dr. Ray completes his final words. Please follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Some of you had some problems with the audio perhaps, or the video, just with some lagging that might have happened with some slow internet in your area. Please get onto YouTube. You can go back and see all of our former workshops. Jessica referred to one that she did talking about how to best deal with COVID, because some of you are still dealing with COVID. Many of us are actually. So get on. You can watch those excellent workshops. They'll help you out in so many ways. So get on there. I'll post the links here for the survey, for our Facebook page, our YouTube page, and our Twitter page in just a few moments.
Mr. Danny? Are you on mute? Okay. Thank you again, everybody. The attendance here has been outstanding. We hope this has been helpful to you. As you know, I'm kind of a student of poetry. And by the way, Dr. Jake didn't mention it, but remember last spring we had the science contest. Our contest for students in the fall will be a writing contest and a poetry contest. So watch our website, watch our Facebook page, because your students will have an opportunity to participate in an essay or in poetry. Could I just maybe leave my final words of inspiration? I think Dr. Jake will post this on the screen. It is this: if students leave my classroom with new skills, I've done my job. If students leave my classroom knowing they are loved and accepted for who they are, I've reached my goal. Think about that. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And thank you all for attending today. It's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to re-engage with most of you and to engage with some of you for the first time. Blessings on all of you. Thank you.